Breathwork is a powerful practice, scientifically proven to help lower the perception of pain and just improve health overall. But did you know that the real power of breathwork is with the exhale? This is Wellness by Design. I'm your host, Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer. And today I'm talking all about breathwork, but specifically the exhale. In this episode, we'll be talking about, well, breathwork in general, but also how the reticular activating system of our brain is tied into our how we breathe and how we can breathe better, regulating our nervous system, which is where all the magic healing happens. I'm also going to be talking about a game changing reframe when it comes to breathing. And I'm going to show you a breathwork technique to get belly breathing working for you that may just change your life. All right, I'll see you inside the episode. Hope you enjoy it. Well, hello, my friend. Welcome to Wellness by Design today. There's probably not anything more powerful that you can do to lower pain than use your breath, focusing on breath. Well, we call it breath work. It's not just breathing without thinking about it, it's consciously breathing. But today I want to share something really different about breathing that not a lot of people are talking about, but I have found extremely helpful. And that is focusing on the exhale. Okay. So focusing on the exhale and not just anything about the exhale. We're going to talk about something specifically you do with the exhale. So, first of all, before I get started, I want to just kind of reiterate. I talk about the breath a lot, but maybe this is your first time tuning in to Wellness by Design and the first time you're hearing me talk about it. And so I just want to let you know that there is so much science behind the power of breathing and breathing consciously to lower chronic pain. It's actually absolutely foundational to everything that I teach. I can't imagine talking about lowering chronic pain or pain management without talking about breath work. It's just that fundamental. And the other thing I love about it too is that it's completely portable, right? You've always got it with you. It's free and anyone can do it. You're breathing anyway, right? So we may as well breathe consciously. So there's plenty of studies and some things I want to talk about specifically. We know that that the breath can put us into that relaxation response of the nervous system. So we talk about the nervous system a lot. We can have a sympathetic response, which is the fight, flight, fear response, or we can have the parasympathetic response, which is the rest, digest, relax, rejuvenate, repair response. So I kind of shorten these a lot of times to the stress response or the relaxation response. And the relaxation response is where we should be most of the time. However, most of our society is flipped around and we're in the stress response most of the time. And that's why there's such a prevalence of pain and illness, because in that stress response, all of the systems in our body begin to not function well. And then that can lead to other things. That can lead to digestive problems, immune system problems, hormone problems, endocrine system problems, musculoskeletal problems, chronic pain, and and that eventually can lead to disease. So getting the nervous system back to the relaxation response is it's not only the number one thing you should do, it's the one thing you have to do. Nothing else that you do matters unless you're in the relaxation response of the nervous system. So, in other words, I spent ages, focusing on diet and changing my food and inflammatory foods, and having a elimination diet and all those things. And that was creating more stress. I was already stressed. And so it was actually making things worse. So none of these other things, supplements, all that's not going to work unless you are continuously bringing yourself back to this relaxation response of the nervous system. And that is a regulated nervous system. When we're in stress response all the time, we get dysregulated and we get stuck there. And so we need to get back to that beautiful, regulated relaxation response. And the best way to do that is with the breath. Absolutely number one, foundational. Tons of studies behind this. It's not conjecture, it's scientifically proven. We just got to do it. And I don't know why people maybe think it's not, it can't be that powerful because it's so simple, but it really is powerful. So I also want to talk about, there's lots of different breathing techniques that can be helpful with, particularly for pain relief. But one of the things I want to talk about specifically today is, we know that longer exhales, so in exhales that are longer than inhales, are especially associated with reduction of chronic pain. Now, the way most people breathe, it's hard for them to have an exhale that's longer than an inhale. Also, we know that breathing low into the belly is very helpful. It helps regulate the nervous system, because we can increase our heart rate variability. Basically, that means we can have variation between successive heartbeats. We can only do that when the breath is longer, which means breathing into the belly, and that is associated with nervous system regulation. And then when we breathe low into the belly, it activates the lower lobes of the lungs. And when they get filled in, that activates the relaxation response of the nervous system. So there's just so much about our breath that's integrally tied to the regulation of the nervous system, that it's just the best place to start. So I want to mention that years ago, I got the book right here. I'd given this book to my father when he was diagnosed with, he had a lot of health problems. So I got this book for him, 8 Weeks to Optimal Health. This book was published in 1997. So it's been around for a while. And I remember reading it, and really, it was the first time I had heard any talk about breath work. I mean, maybe people were talking about it, but I wasn't in that world then where people were talking about breath work. And even though this was a long time ago and long before I ever had any health problems at all, I remember him saying something about the power of the exhale, and that if we could just switch our thinking around to because when we think of breathing, people automatically think inhale, exhale, right? We start with the inhale. And he says, if we can switch that around and just think of breathing as an exhale first. So first you exhale and then you inhale. It changes your breathing. It makes you become a more conscious breather. And that is foundational. So, and I'm going to talk to you about how I start with an exhale, because I used to find it hard to breathe into the belly. People would say, breathe into your belly, and I couldn't do it. But I'll talk about that in a minute. But I wanted to mention an interesting point, that the Chinese symbol for breath has two parts to it. You know, the two parts, an inhale and exhale. But it starts with exhale, exhale, then inhale. Now, I don't read Chinese. Someone said this, and so I'm taking their word for it. But I find that pretty interesting, because, of course, it's a culture that's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And also, traditional Chinese medicine has been around for thousands and thousands of years. And so there's a lot of wisdom in there. And I think we can use that wisdom to help us. So I wanted to read actually something from this book by Dr. Dr. Andrew Weil. He says, Uh, he said there's an important physiological reason for asking you to make this reversal. So in other words, starting with an exhale. Potentially you have greater control over exhalation than inhalation because you can use the voluntary muscles between your ribs to squeeze air out of your lungs. And I would also say your abdominal muscles, and I'll show you that in a minute. And this musculature is much more powerful than that used for drawing air in. So we have a lot more musculature, muscles available to us to control that exhale than we have for inhale. If you think about it, if we inhale, like what muscles are you using for that? You're kind of like filling, breathing in, but when you think about an exhale, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but if you think about an exhale and squeezing the air out, we got our abdominal muscles. We can kind of tighten our lower ribs. So we've got a lot of musculature to help us with that exhale. And the other thing I want to talk about before I do a demonstration to show you how to make those exhales really work for you, I want to talk about the role of the reticular activating system. So I've mentioned the reticular activating system before in my podcasts. And so RAS for short, we can use the reticular activating system for pain management. So what is the reticular activating system? It is basically what your brain is paying attention to. And when we pay attention to something, then our brain will naturally focus more on what we're paying attention to. So it's kind of like a circular thing. We focus on something and then our brain focuses on that more. So if I told you to think about, let me see, a pink elephant, you're right away thinking, you get a picture in your mind of a pink elephant, and then maybe pink elephants might start, you'll hear people talk about pink elephants. Or if you have, if you have a certain, paying attention to a car color, for example, my car, when I got a white car, it's like all I noticed was white cars. But I'm sure if I got in a red car and I was looking at red cars, that's all I would notice. Or if you're buying a vehicle and there's a certain make or model that you're looking for and you've been reading about it and paying attention, then you start noticing it everywhere. So that's the reticular activating system at work. So with breath work, if we're focusing our attention on the breath, then the reticular activating system starts to notice the breath more, notice what you're doing more, helping you pay attention to that more. And so then your breathing starts to work more for you than against you, because most people, ordinary people in our society, tend to be breathing dysfunctionally. They're breathing shallowly into their chest mostly, and that's associated with stress. They're breathing quickly, again associated with stress. They're not so they're breathing up here, they're breathing quickly, so shallow breathing, sometimes breath holding as well. So a lot of people, especially chronic pain, tend to hold their breath quite a bit. And also another thing that people aren't are doing is breathing through their mouth a lot, and that is also not the best way to breathe. We want to breathe through our nose as much as possible. It's a really interesting book, Breath by James Nestor. If you haven't read it, he like literally tested on himself. He taped his nose and breathed through his mouth and measured a whole bunch of things. And he talked about how awful he felt. But then he's also a journalist and he studied this. And we tend to turn into mouth breathers, and the more we breathe through our mouth, the harder it is to breathe through our nose. We also do not get enough oxygen then. And also, we're not building up nitric oxide, which helps open the airways. Plus, the air isn't getting filtered, and it's not getting at the right pressure. It also, breathing in through our mouth all the time, our facial structure even changes. I mean, it's very, very interesting. So, I encourage you to look into that. But that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm going to encourage you to breathe through your nose, but that's not the focus of today. The focus of today is getting into the belly by starting with an exhale. So, So when we really start focusing on the breath and breathing in a way that's going to support getting our nervous system regulated, this nervous system regulation, then it changes our perception of pain. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention about the reticular activating system. When we're paying attention to our breath, we aren't paying attention to pain. So our mind starts to focus more on breath rather than pain. Now, you've probably heard me talk, if you've listened to some of my other podcasts, about the pain fear cycle. The more we focus on pain, the more pain we have, because we focus on pain, we have fear thoughts about the pain. Then our brain pays attention to fear because we're naturally wired to do that. Then it creates more pain. And so we get into this cycle. So we want to break that cycle by changing our focused attention to something else. Why not the breath? I mean, you can focus on other things, but with everything that we know that's also so beneficial about breath, why not focus your attention on the breath? We'll get those other health benefits. Plus, we're getting our reticular activating system on board. Plus, we're breaking the pain fear cycle. What's not to love about that? Okay. So let me now talk about what I really want to talk about, and that's showing you how to use the exhale. And so here's the thing. I found I was so tight inside that I didn't realize, and this is long before the rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis. I was doing Tai Chi for a lot of years. I was doing yoga. I was doing those things, but I was still so tight and wound up. And I remember, I mean, my shoulders are pretty good now. They're down, but when I was doing Tai Chi, my shoulders are kind of like this. And my Tai Chi instructor used to say, Jane, relax your shoulders. And I'd say they are relaxed. I mean, that's what felt normal for me. I really had to do a lot of work to get them down. And then when we were talking about breathing into the belly, I would hear breathe into the belly, and I'd be going, it's all up here, right? I couldn't breathe into the belly. Or people might not have even said breathe in the belly. They might have been saying, just take a big breath. And I had to go, and just notice for yourself, when I say take a big breath, do your shoulders go up? Is it just your chest, or does your belly go out? I'm willing to bet that unless you've been practicing breath work for a while, you probably, when I say take a big breath, you're probably doing the same thing that I used to do. Filling up the chest and the shoulders go up. And no judgment. It's just all about, let's learn a new way to do this so that you can breathe in a way that's going to support you, support pain relief, just support your body in general, and also mental health. We know that with breath work, it's calming, right? And so you may have less anxiety. You may just feel more calm. Every aspect of your health will improve when you have long, slow, deep breaths. Okay. And when I say deep, I mean deep into the belly. And they don't even have to be big breaths, but it does need to be low in the belly. All right. So here's what I found to be a game changer. And I don't know how I came up with this, but this is what worked for me. It was probably in some yoga class. So I started, instead of starting with the inhale, take a big breath, I would start with pulling my belly button back towards the spine. So starting with an exhale, as I'm exhaling through my nose, I'm I'm imagining, and actually, and it may even help to put your hands here, pulling my belly button back towards the spine as I exhale. I'm tightening the muscles in the lower part here. Now, when I inhale, it's got somewhere to go in the belly. Push the belly button out. Inhale, pull the belly button back. Sorry, exhale, pull the belly button back. Inhale, push the belly button out. And it might be helpful for you to try this lying down. So you could lie down and just put your hands on your belly and just feel that movement. If your belly hasn't been moving much with breathing, then it might be hard to get that big shift. Or if you're, if these muscles have not had a lot of work, then it may be hard for you to feel it. So it may take practice. It will take practice. It's like learning anything. You need to practice to teach your body and give it the muscle memory to be able to do this. And you also might find it helpful to practice this in front of a mirror. So again, you can put your hands on your belly, and maybe you want to turn sideways so you can see the movement like I just did there. So you can see the belly moving back and forth. And it might just be little movements in the beginning, and that's okay. And it may even feel a little bit stressful in the beginning. And so don't do it. Don't keep doing it if you're feeling stressed. Because remember, whole idea is relaxation of the nervous system. But we do need to practice it in order to learn it. So don't like do it for long periods of time. And if you start getting dizzy, of course, give yourself a little bit of break. Maybe you just do a couple of breaths and then you give yourself a break. But build up. You can gradually build up to it. And then you'll start to notice that most of the time as you practice this, and certainly whenever you think about it with that reticular activating system, paying attention to it, when you're paying attention to breathing through conscious breathing, you will start to notice that you will like, oh, right, start with the exhale, pull the belly button back. Now inhale. And you'll notice yourself doing that more. And the change in this is just profound. It can really change how your nervous system is. And especially if you're in a stressful situation, might be a time to try this as well, because you're focusing on that belly, the movement of the belly, the breath, the breathing, and that's going to take your mind off what might be bothering you. So it's a great relaxation technique, really, in any situation. And you can try this anywhere. You could be standing in the line at the grocery store and use it as an opportunity to practice this. Start with an exhale, squeezing the belly, pulling the belly button back towards the spine, and then inhale. And you can do it sitting in your car when you're stopped at a light. I mean, it's just so many options and where you could do this. It's great to do it like first thing in the morning too, or last thing when you're going to bed at night might be a good time to practice. Like any new habit, if you're trying to do this and remember to do it, you need some kind of cue to remind you to do it. So you might use Post-it notes. You might kind of even have a little reminder in your car, red lights. I'm going to practice exhaling first. Another thing I love to do is I'll put a ring that I don't normally wear on my fingers, or I might switch a ring that I normally wear to a different finger, and it sort of feels a little uncomfortable. And then it reminds me, oh, right, okay, when I notice that, I'll do a breath. Or you could put your watch on your other arm. So every time you go to look at the time, it'd be like, oh, right, time to do a breath, an exhale, start with an exhale. Or you could wear like a bracelet or something you don't normally wear. Ideas are endless. You could have reminders on your phone to go off. I kind of don't love that one too much because those beeps tend to activate the nervous system, that stress response of the nervous system. So I like it to be something a bit more relaxing. It could be when I love this as well. You sit down to eat, right? A couple of times a day, maybe 3 times a day, maybe more. Before you eat, do some breathing like this. And this has another great benefit of getting you into that rest and digest state, right? Relaxing the nervous system, rest and digest. So it will help you digest your food better so that you're absorbing nutrients better. So there's just a lot of great opportunities for you to do this, but practice it. Just practice it and you'll start teaching your body, exhale, and now inhale. And it can really change really change everything for you. It's super powerful. And then you're taking your time, right, on that on the exhale. Your inhale will probably be shorter as a result. And we know that those long exhales are associated with less pain. So give that a try. All right. If you have any questions about this or comments, I'd love to hear them. So let me know how this worked for you. Is this a little bit of a game changer for you? And how are you going to remember to do this? So I would say when I talk about one thing you can do today that's going to initiate healing in your body, start switching up your breathing by thinking about it as exhale first and get down into the belly. So stay tuned, my friend, for future episodes. I got some really incredible guests and shows coming up, always to support you in and empower you in healing. This is really all about empowering you. I can't stress enough that our whole medical system seems to be about feeling like a victim because we give our power up to someone else. I want to empower you with and inspire you with these tools that I share on this show. All right. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and share this episode with a friend who needs to hear it. And I'll see you again soon.